you in the streaming.
Where is my Twitch stream manager? Oh God, I have to reload the page. I'm so sorry.
If I open up the Firefox, then the Discord audio starts lagging.
Okay, but are you are recording now, right?
Well, now I am. I started 30 seconds.
Okay, I also started recording. Okay, I'm gonna close this.
The light should be here.
Holy
but
shit, I can't even close tabs now. I wanna see snack. Jonty, I think that's
where's the snack?
Okay, I don't ever like hearing that.
Problem being, I fed him only a few hours ago, so he might like regurgitate his food if I pick him up. But I'll check him in a bit and I'll like try him. And if it's okay, I'll bring him in.
He probably has a mouse inside, like it's a snake, like this. Whoop.
I think it's a hamster actually. So I know I put a video out on Instagram.
Yeah, I saw it. Like you were like feeding it with a glove, like.
You know, that was a slow motion.
Got the camera now.
So my reaction was like, whoa. But if you actually watch the video in real time, it's more like.
Don't beat me, snack. I'm a human.
Yeah, no, he'll eat almost anything.
Okay, so we good?
Like, freezer from and everything.
Yeah, I'm fine to start. I opened one like document that has all the information about what happened in Spain, like sort by the things that happened.
Okay, which episode is this? 15?
15.
15,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, then welcome to Insecure Space episode 15. This is a very spontaneous, quick episode with a lot of people. We are going to talk about the coronavirus, also known as COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2. And yeah, basically the idea with this episode is to create a kind of a snapshot of what's going on in Europe right now. This is why we have 4 guests here today. So we have Kody. We are live, so you can all kind of say something and wave the camera or something.
Hello.
So no, I was just sorry. I was just like going through one by one. So we have Kody.
Hey, from the United States. I'm specifically in Los Angeles, but yeah.
Then yeah, Jonty.
Hi, I'm Jonty, aka Seytonic, based in Southampton. Thankfully, not London.
Oh right, I forgot about that. Yeah, then Dean.
Unfortunately, I'm from Spain and I live in Madrid. You know where all the shit's going on here. Oh, yeah, I'll be telling more in a few minutes.
And of course, David.
Yes, I'm in Hungary. So well, the situation is not better, with fewer cases at the moment, but it will get worse probably.
Oh boy. Okay, yeah, I'm Stefan, I'm from Germany, and yeah, as you can maybe tell, we are all from different countries, and that's kind of the idea, to get this kind of snapshot, and everyone's gonna talk a bit about what's going on in their country and how they're reacting on this crisis. And yeah, it's March 17th, at least for me. And yeah, again, this is very spontaneous. We are also live streaming this right now, so yeah, the audio quality for the audio podcast later is probably not that great, but yeah, it's not that easy to record with 5 people in that that quickly. All right, yeah, I guess we start with Dean from Spain, because you are hit the hardest, right?
Yeah, right now in Spain we have around like 6,000. No, sorry, we have more. We have like 11,000 people infected. 509 deaths right now, and the government already took measurements, like they totally banned everyone from going outside of their homes if it's not for like medical or basic necessities, to work if you are not able to telework.
How do they check that?
They just stop you on the streets, because there's no one, literally no one on the highways, so it's only like a few cops on the streets, and if they see like just a car going to them, they just like, where are you going? Oh yeah, I'm going to work. And they're like, okay, I need something to like verify that you're going to work. They are basically checking no one's on the streets. They already deployed the army's medical unit on the streets. They are like setting up like different like hospitals, like improved hospitals, and they are like taking over the private hospitals too for like offering help to those that need it. Because like right now the problem is that the healthcare system is like saturated, because like everyone's like needing help. There's lots of high risk infected people, and they need to treat them, and there's not enough materials and resources to treat everyone at the same time. That's why all these things like the open hackathon they made for like the designing a breathing system for like hospitals, it's like going on and everything. And you can also go out for like financial stuff, or like getting gas for your vehicle, and yeah, like emergencies, these kind of things. They also banned all the like burial events, and yeah, everything's pretty much like fucked up here. The first measurements they take here in Madrid were like to close all schools and universities. Right now I'm like homeschooled, let's say. Like we're like working, like having online lectures, which is like a total chaos and mess. And yeah, it's basically this will keep for like, it was supposed to be only 15 days, but I think it's gonna last for at least 2 months probably.
So you are in a lockdown. Is it just for Madrid or the entire country?
At the beginning, it was only for Madrid. Like we were locked in Madrid because the community of Madrid, the regional government was the one that was like managing all these things. Like Spain's composed by different regions, and they have like different regional governments. And Madrid and a few others were the first ones on like taking measurements against this. But right now we are on a national lockdown, so no one in Spain can go out. And yeah, we're pretty fucked up.
Crazy. So just to clarify,
Dean, how quickly did this ramp up, by the way? Like from things starting to get serious to the lockdown, how quickly did that happen?
That happened in just a few weeks. I remember they were still like taking measurements and everything. They declared the alert state this Sunday. And yeah, these last 2 weeks, it escalated super fast. Like every day we were like, oh, we got 36% more people than yesterday, and like it went on like been incredibly fast. And after the 8M feminist movement and everything, like more people got infected. They made a like a right wing like meeting with like thousands of people, and they also got like lots of people infected. Major political leaders and everyone was infected. And yeah, it's pretty hard. Like in just a few weeks, we got on the same level that Italy had like a week before.
Crazy. So you can go out for emergencies. You can probably go out for grocery shopping and go to work, right? That's it.
Yeah, right now it's more a thing of like social responsibility, because like you can go out and there's probably not going to be a cop in every corner. Like you could just go out to see your friends or something like that, but they wouldn't probably find you're like going out. The things that they are like just like controlling the major places where like people move. And right now it's the thing about like social responsibility and staying home, trying to like lower the curve of like the infected people, so hospitals can feed all the people that are infected at the same time, and they can offer proper treatment for those that need it. And it's just like they're just trying to like decrease the impact this is going to have on today the president took like more financial measurements. It was like French president took like measurement like, for like avoiding this financial death. Like he used lots of millions of euros to like support companies and small businesses and like self-employed people. and today Spain is like starting to take more measurements in this like economic way, and yeah, it's like weird.
I have a few questions written down. Oh, sorry, Kody, go on.
I'm really curious to know, like, in your opinion, like, how seriously, after your government tried to start getting people to stop going out, was it just a couple extreme groups that were like refusing to obey and still going out and getting a bunch of people infected, or do you feel like your government was doing a good job of warning people and getting people tested like early on?
The thing is that at the beginning, like, the government has always been like telling people to stay at home, like recommending and suggesting like, yeah, you better stay home, cause like it's what we, like, the health minister was suggesting, and like it was kind of in this way, but there was like a lot of people that was like against this, like for example, right now the right wing on the government is like against closing like different like stores on the streets, and like there are like against of some kind of like, there are right a few hours ago they posted a tweet like, why are pharmacies open and these local stores closed? And it's like, I mean, they are not really taking this that seriously, and there's like, this is pretty difficult for all people to understand, and there's like, everyone's like taking this in a good way, like they are trying to like stay home and find things to do, because like, you know, for us it's easy to stay home because like we are able to like find ourselves some entertainment to like hack some things, or like get an ESPN and start programming something, or like whatever. But there's lots of people that are on their daily use, like they just go out with friends on the noon, like they go to work on the morning, and they find it pretty difficult to stay at home. Like everyone's like freaking out, like you can see like people like, oh my god, I'm dying. And there's people that are like trying to like go out on walks and like trying to go to the mountain or things like this, and they are getting fines.
Oh, okay. So if you go out and the police, I guess the police is patrolling and sees you, and
if they find out, they will probably find you.
What's the fine, sorry?
I don't know the exact amount. I could check it out.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I heard or I read something about 200 euros from Italy, but in Austria they can fine you with up to 2,000 something euros if they see you. But Austria,
Seriously.
But I think Austria also said that if they find, like, if you go outside alone, they don't really care. Like they don't care. But if you are in groups outside, they gonna like dissolve.
Yeah. Like the problem here is that here they allow you to go on a walk with your dog. Like they obviously say like, yeah, you can walk your dog, you know. But the thing is that there's like lots of people that are using dogs as an excuse to go out. And you can find people that are like a group of 3 persons like walking the dog, and the government is like, no, for walking the dog you just need 1 person. And they're like, they are having to like specify how you can go out like every day with different situations and things like this. And also, I just checked the fines here, and here it says it can go up to 60,000 euros.
What?
Ouch.
If you are against the public health and omitting the police, I mean, probably here it says it can be up to like oh wow, okay. I didn't know this, but you know, they taped all the parks with signs that says please don't go in. So if you take out one of these signs that say don't go in, it's forbidden, you have to stay home, you get a fine of 600 euros. And if you're just like randomly partying or doing something outside, it can go up to like 60k.
Yeah. Holy shit.
60k.
Yeah, I guess that's probably for organizers of like bigger events that ignore this.
Exactly. Crazy. So like if you're going with your friends, you would probably get something like 1,000 euros or like 2,000 euros.
So I think we got a pretty good image of what Spain looks like. But how do you feel like personally about this crisis right now?
I mean, personally, this affects you in different ways. Because like the worst part is not only like, I don't really care about being infected myself. the things that I live with my grandparents, for example, and if I get infected, they are like in a risk group, you know. And it also affects me in a way that I can't go out and see my partner, you know, like I can just go out with my boyfriend or with my friends on a night, but that's something that's not really affecting me at all. Also, university has been not cancelled. They cancel only the on-site classes, so they are still like going on, even though the teachers are pretty much like messing up the lectures online because they don't really know how to use this and how to like make different things.
At least you have an online setup for lectures.
Yeah, that's true. There are some universities that don't have any kind of online tuition, you know. And yeah, and that's a fucked up because like you will probably have exams at some point on summer vacation or something like that.
I will get to that. I have some.
But yeah, like it's mostly the fact of being like at home for like, because like if it's only 2 weeks, that would be fine. I think if it's only 2 weeks, I can stay home for 2 weeks. But if it's more than 2 weeks, like if it's gonna extend to like 2 months or even 3 months, that's gonna be another thing. Because like staying home for 3 months, I don't think that's healthy.
That actually is a good segue. What do you think? How do you think your world looks, or the world in general looks like in a week?
Oof. And in a week, I think it will just look like a normal place. I mean, it's gonna be empty. The thing is that, you know, the main reason why they had to like apply these like super restrictive measurements were because people were going on vacation. Like they were like, yeah, there's no university, there's no work, and everyone was like, oh my god, I'm going to the beach to get some sun and like take a bath on the sea. And it's like, and the government is like, no, that's not what it's for. It's for you to stay home. And then they declared the alert state, in which they said, okay, now you can go out officially. If you go out, we can find you, you know. And I think in 1 week there is not going to be such a huge change. But if this stays like this for more than 1 month, it's going to be like we will really notice the changes, and like lots of small companies are going to close, and people are going to be mad at staying home for like 1 week because like they can just stay home. I don't know. The thing is that hopefully some governments are like taking like what I said before, like some economic measurements, like the rent you won't have to pay. Like in Spain, they're making it so you won't have to pay the rent for like as long as this lasts, and they will try to help the self-employed people to pay the light and like water. I mean, it's gonna be fun. This is like a needed rest for the world, because like right now, for example, Madrid is a pretty polluted city. If you look on the horizon, you can see like it's a black cloud over Madrid. So right now it's clear, like you can see everything in Madrid's sky, and I don't know, it's like a needed rest for the planet.
All right. Who wants next? Should we go to the UK?
I'm up for it. I'm ready.
Yeah, can I drop in
your mask?
Can I drop in this chart, by the way, and just see how you feel about it? Because I was reading an article from the New York Times about why my government changed its response, and it was because of your government's assessment.
Oh, let me see.
So this was So this was a chart that showed the projected number of potential deaths per day if there's no change in a lockdown on social gatherings or certain hotspots.
Oh shit. 2.2 million in the US.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, it's even worse here based on that, what, per 100,000 population. But
could somebody share their screen for a second? I don't quite know how to. So the people that are watching this could see it.
They can see it.
You can see it.
Oh. Okay, cool.
It's a pretty high number.
You should describe this chart for the people that are on the podcast. It's basically a chart that describes the deaths per day and the population of the country.
So it goes up really fast, really high, and then it goes down really fast, really high.
But thankfully, that is
if
there's no changes, right? And they are going to be forced to implement new changes. So, disclaimer, that's likely not going to happen. But it puts it really into perspective. Like, this is like not the flu. It's something to be taken seriously. I saw Trump's tweets, comparing it to the flu. It's not. I mean, we have a similar problem here in the UK, is that the government just really isn't taking it seriously. I mean, in the UK, I mean, the British mantra is just keep calm and carry on. And during the Blitz, people would dance under railway arches as bombs were being dropped, and people went on with their jobs. But you just can't do that with this. So yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes for people to actually take it seriously here, because there aren't any really official restrictions. The government is saying don't go to pubs, don't go to clubs, etc., but they haven't actually closed them as of yet. So yeah, everything's just up in the air here. There's really no action has been taken.
No, like none at all, other than some advice not to go.
Well, they're saying that you should, self-isolate, etc. And today I just watched the news, and they've pumped in £250 billion into the economy to help small businesses. So, they're doing a lot on the economic front. But in terms of socially, they haven't closed schools. Trains are still running. Mass gatherings aren't banned, but I think they're restricted in terms of the advice. Luckily here, people intend to do what they're told. So most people are heeding the advice. Though I went out earlier with a mask, and everyone was just they looked at me like I was kind of crazy. Now, in their defense, the mask is like pretty massive. It's the biggest thing you can kind of get, so it's kind of understandable at this point. But I think in a few weeks, everyone's perspective is going to be completely changed. I really think people have underestimated the effects of this.
What are your numbers in the UK right now?
So that's interesting. It was 1,000. However, then they changed the method of testing. So now they only test people who go into hospitals. So the numbers they're reporting now are people who are severe enough to have to go into a hospital. So those have increased by 500 today to 2,000. Though on the BBC News, they're saying the official estimates of the total amount of people is close to 50,000. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's a lot.
How are they not closing the school or not even the university?
The argument is that a lot of health workers have kids, and that if they close the schools, then those kids will have to be looked after by their parents who are in the healthcare, or they'll have to be sent to their grandparents to be looked after by them, and that will take people out of the healthcare system. But I mean,
we did it in Spain.
It's ridiculous.
We did.
These are just breeding grounds for infestation. Even if kids aren't really affected by this and are quite asymptomatic, they're just spreading it home to their parents. It's like, if the parents have it, then the kids will get it and then bring it to school, and the other kids will get it, take it home, give it to their parents. And it's important to keep in mind. I did some research a few days ago, and bear in mind, a lot of the research right now is very early days, so we don't know if this is true or accurate. But they're saying that asymptomatic people who are infected are just as contagious, if not more contagious, than people who are showing heavy symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So after 8 days of infection, even if you're still showing heavy symptoms, your viral load tends to go down quite a lot. So it's a lot harder for you to infect other people. But for the asymptomatic, just wandering around, oblivious to the fact that they're carrying this and spewing out into the air as they're going along like little chimneys, they're just infecting a shit ton of people. So 50,000 now, if that continues to double every few days, could get pretty dire pretty quick. I know they've cancelled non-urgent surgeries for the next 3 months, so that frees up a whole load of hospital beds. They're looking at requisitioning private hospitals, but yeah, I really don't think it's set in at all, and we're entering the boom stage now. So within the next few days, the next week or two, it's just going to go up
crazy
in terms of the cases. But yeah, I've stocked up on rice. I've got a lot of food here, so I'm just crossing my fingers. And luckily, I live by myself, so no one's really gonna infect me per se. But it's more that older relatives, people who are kind of oblivious to the situation, to the circumstances, still thinking about traveling, going on the trains with a bunch of people who hasn't, then they're just completely out of their mind as far as I'm concerned.
Do you order food?
I used to. So I was getting what's called an Ocado delivery every week. But now you have to book 2 to 3 weeks ahead in order to get a delivery slot at all. And when you do order, they limit you to like 2 pieces of everything or 1, thing of toilet roll. So it's almost kind of pointless at this point. So I've resorted to just going into shops because there's no other option. I know the big supermarkets, the big chains, they're out of rice, they're out of flour because people like bread. They're out of all the basics. So I'm going to the local shops, like little international shops, like Turkish shops, Indian shops that people are kind of oblivious of anyway. They're much better stocked than these massive stores. I just walked into a shop yesterday and got 10 kilograms of rice. Here. So I recommend people to do that in the UK because going to Tesco, little Aldi, it's just you're not going to get in. The queues are massive, and it's just it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
In Spain, like most stores run out of like basic stuff like toilet paper and like breakfast material, foods like vegetables, meat. There are like it's a massive wave of people like going in and like emptying everything on the morning, and then like you go on the afternoon to you want to buy some toilet paper or anything else, and it's like no supermarket has it. It's insane.
Oh yeah, I mean, luckily I kind of saw this at least to a certain extent. So it got to 5,000 cases in China, and I was like, well, long story short, I was on the phone with my brother and I was super high and paranoid. So he just convinced me to, panic buy. It's like, oh shit. So I ordered like, 10 packs of toilet roll and 7 boxes of, flushable wet wipes and all these things. And, just tons of shit like that. And then for the next couple of weeks, I was sitting there thinking, this is, pointless. Like, what have I got this? I bought a mask that cost me 25 quid. I was like, £25 on a mask. I just kept it in its bag because I was planning to return it at the end of the 30-day return period in case, it didn't get that far. But the last week or two, it's just shit hasn't hit the fan just quite yet. But I think it's about to. And just on a unrelated note to the UK, I'm making a video today on folding at home. And now Folding at Home have just introduced coronavirus to their repertoire of diseases they're researching for. So Folding at Home, if you're not aware, it's you could download this program onto your computer and it folds proteins. So it creates this supercomputer. I'm doing a really bad job of explaining here because I have a bit too much to drink. But it helps find drugs for diseases. So the idea is you download this program and then it crunches numbers for researchers at research institutes, because these things are really difficult to do. They require supercomputers, extremely expensive, but especially for gamers. I know a lot of people watching this and be gamers. You can have a lot of free GPU power. So go to Folding at Home and see if you can help.
So that's like the SETI screensaver that there used to be, where you were able to like participate in like interstellar research by like letting it consume some of your computer's resources, right? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, essentially, it's like mining for Bitcoin, but where the Bitcoin is something that's actually, of tangible use, really. So
nice.
I'm dedicating a video to it tomorrow, and I've downloaded it now. I've got it going in the background, looking at some cool proteins on the side here. It's a really good thing to do. It's cheap. I mean, all it costs is your electricity. It's easy. So I recommend people give it a go.
Where do you think you are in a week in the UK?
Well, hopefully in a week's time, there'll be actual restrictions, some tangible restrictions, school closures, hopefully, because my mum is a teacher and, she's going to school and she works in early years. She teaches 4 and 5-year-olds. So you've got these 4 and 5-year-olds just dribbling on her like all day. So it's that's pretty bad. But I think there's going to be a lot more panic probably. The shops are really going to be raided at that point. Because right now the basics are gone, but if you want frozen pizza, things like that, the kind of stuff you can, that's not the bare basics. You can still find that, no problem. But I think I'd be really surprised if it didn't get to a level where it was near martial law, kind of like what you've got in Spain. And I feel like this could be a really century-defining event. kind of like 9/11, people think of life before and afterwards. This could be the same kind of thing, like the massive change that came in before and after the coronavirus. I would not be surprised.
One question I had was, how well prepared do you feel like the government of the UK was in terms of taking proactive steps to make sure that people could get tested early, to make sure that they were aware of like how many cases there really were, and also warning people proactively about what kind of impact this might have on like their loved ones, for example, like old people, like, or people with immunocompromised conditions?
Sure. So they are advising people with compromised immune systems to stay at home for 4 months. So they're saying self-isolate for 4 months. That is really good advice. But of course, they don't want people to panic, because if they come out and say, you know, everyone has to hunker down, A, if that creates social unrest, but B, that really affects the markets, and the markets just plummet and everything just goes to shit anyway, you know, hyperinflation, and they're giving out a shit ton of free money now anyway. So that would just screw everything up. But yeah, no, it's not looking good.
Crazy.
Indeed.
Oof.
I had something else to say, but I've forgotten, but I'll think about it. If anybody else has got any more questions about the UK, it's going to be an interesting case study, the UK, compared to other countries, because we're doing it differently.
I mean,
is the UK closing borders like with all the countries? Like, are they forbidding like all the countries? Because in Spain they already started like not allowing people from specific countries to come to Spain. We are now closing the physical frontiers with France and Portugal. So it's like, is the same happening with the UK?
Not that I can think of. I mean, they're advising against essential travel elsewhere, and a lot of airlines are cancelling flights proactively. So a lot of this change that's coming isn't from the government; it's from people cancelling things themselves. Like a lot of clubs, a lot of nightclubs closed a few days ago before the government even said anything. And just a quick thing on the preparedness, I remembered something quickly, is that because of Brexit, they were actually stockpiling a lot of medicine anyway. So, you know, they're tapping into those reserves now. So that's something that was just kind of a coincidence that's really coming in handy. But other than that, yeah, no one's really prepared. Actually, in the UK, we have a shortage of ventilators because, of course, this is a respiratory disease. So a lot of people that get it need to put on these ventilators that just pump oxygen into them, essentially. But we only have 5,000 of them. And now they're pooling a lot of the manufacturers in the UK, and they're telling them, hey, so we need you to switch from making aircrafts to making these ventilators. Can you do it? Give us a time frame. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they come up with. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting case study, to say the least.
5,000 is not a lot.
It's really not. But
yeah, it's
these
just
ventilators are massive kind of electrical equipment. So 5,000 would be enough to deal with like a flu outbreak, but nothing to this extent at all.
Wait, you have 5,000 ventilators right now?
Yeah.
Okay, because I think it's around the same amount here, and we have a larger population. And I also heard that at least 80% of those are already in use. They cannot be used.
Oh yeah.
No, but I guess that's also the case everywhere.
Yeah, they're going to have to bootleg some kind of ad hoc bootstrap solution together, some kind of really bare bones ventilator. But it's weird. Every time I kind of have an cough, it's, you know, you don't want to cough because of the social thing. But yeah, no, life is really going to change. I mean, I was going to go down to London this weekend for Mother's Day. That's not going to happen now. So I'm probably not going to be able to get home for, it could be, I know Trump was saying July, August. I was watching the news, and they're doing daily briefings now in the UK. So every day at 5 p.m., the Prime Minister will come on along with his top financial and health advisors, and they'll, you know, give their information, give updates. And they're saying, like, they said 18 months before we get a vaccine, and they're saying that could be a period of isolation. Because of course, if you've got underlying health issues and there's this about, you can't really go out. And the problem is, if we get to December, if we get to Christmas, and then people start going out again, and the virus survives better in colder climates, it's just going to be a second wave. And it is possible to get this virus again. You know, there are cases of that. So yeah, we could really be in this for the long.
Oh yeah, I find it interesting that you still have open borders, because here they close the borders, and like 2 days afterwards, they were saying, yeah, you should cancel unnecessary travels. And I was like, you closed the borders already. Okay.
Made that decision for us.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they haven't really done anything in terms of the borders. As far as I'm aware of, like, I'm not certain on that, but I'm pretty sure I would know if that happens. Because one of the big problems I faced a couple of days ago was that I really had my eyes glued to the news. And for a whole day, I found myself just watching the news, watching these YouTube videos on the virus, and it really, fucks you up in the head. So I'm trying my best to just stay away from the news, just, hop on at 5 p.m., watch the updates from the Prime Minister. But other than that, just to, put my phone on silent and just try and focus on doing more productive things. Because, I mean, this is a good opportunity for people to, like, work, I guess, given everyone is going to be, watching Netflix and, kind of pissing their time away. I'm trying to just get as much work done as possible.
Okay. Which country wants to go next?
Well, if we're going in order of severity, I think it's you.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know if Germany might be hit more than the UK right now. But not sure, since if the UK isn't counting properly, then who knows. But yeah, we are hit pretty hard. We are just, I'm looking up the map right now. We are at 8,604 cases. We have not that many deaths, not that many deaths, and not that many recovered cases compared to all other European countries around us. So I'm reading out of that we are just like in the beginning stage, but we already have a very high number, so that's really dangerous.
What do you think Germany is doing better? Because I know the death rate is quite low in Germany compared to other countries.
So one thing I heard, and I'm not sure if that's the reason, but apparently in other countries, if someone dies, they are testing them for the virus, even if they didn't consider them having the virus in the first place. Because some people, they have another disease or something, and then maybe they got the virus somehow and die, so they are testing dead people essentially. And we are not doing that. So that might be one reason, because just like people dying and no one knows that they had the virus. Other than that, I don't know. Maybe it's just, maybe it's still coming. Maybe our healthcare system can keep up better yet than other countries. I don't know. A lot of things we don't know at this point. I find it interesting because our government response has been pretty hard now, but it was a bit late. You could see Spain, France, Italy, Austria all closing their borders, closing schools, setting up lockdowns, at least in high-risk areas. And Germany was just like, yeah, I don't know, can we close the schools? What about the workers? What you said, Jonty.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's awful.
But
that's ridiculous.
But it was interesting because I think it was last Thursday. I think it was Thursday. Suddenly everything changed within 24 hours. Before Thursday, it was just like, there were people discussing, should we close schools? But no one was really for it or doing anything. And then suddenly all the different state leaders met, and then one state just said, fuck it, we're gonna close the schools here because we are close to Austria or France or something. And then one state after another just like closed all their schools, closed everything until after Easter. And yeah, now it's a bit more coordinated. So the central government sets up restrictions, and not every state on its own, because that was quite chaotic. But it was crazy over the weekend. It's just like you could refresh the news app, and every few hours you had a new restriction in place. It went from basically no restriction at all to no schools, no universities, no events of a certain size, then even smaller sizes. Now all stores must close except the very essential ones, like grocery stores and that kind of stuff, and banks. And I'm pretty sure that maybe by tomorrow. So today it's Tuesday, March 17th. I would guess by tomorrow or maybe the day after, they will declare a lockdown like you have in Spain.
Probably because you're like escalating so fast.
Yeah, probably depends on the numbers. If they don't rise that much, then maybe they wait another day, which I think is stupid. But that's how these people work, right? I mean, those are politicians.
Bureaucrats.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing we'll look back on, and no matter how people reacted, we'll all say people really underreacted as opposed to overreacted.
Yeah, you have to overreact.
Yeah, because it's hard to get into people's heads just what logarithmic graphs look like. I mean, graphs that really kind of, go up exponentially. That doesn't really compute in the human brain. So, yeah, I know this is going to be a big learning experience.
Yeah, beginning of last week, I could already see this is becoming really big here in Germany, but I couldn't really see anyone else caring at the beginning of the week. I saw my university putting up, people were starting to freak out, but not actually taking action. They were setting up these special section on their website that happened in my university, like saying what they cancel and what they don't cancel, and then they only cancel like big events. And I was like, just cancel everything, what the fuck? But they had to. That's the thing with Germany, I feel like right now. They are so afraid of closing down everything at once. They're going step by step. So like one little step, then sorry to
interrupt, but is that because of the economy, right? Disrupt things?
I honestly don't think so. It's more of the culture, the people that are they don't get this crisis yet. It was always in the news, always far away. Yeah, and they don't realize how serious that is. I can notice. I went yesterday. Yesterday was first day where there wasn't any schools open. People had a lot of free time. Some people weren't going to work. It was beautiful weather, so I went into the city to get some supplies, and people were all out and about. Like the ice cream store, a lot of people there, and they were just not keeping distance at all. Yeah, no one, like I saw people meeting up in the public with like, I don't know, 6 people or whatever, discussing how terrible is this, not realizing that what they're doing right now is exactly what they shouldn't do. They should isolate, they shouldn't meet. Yeah, it's not, I feel like people are not realizing, and they're realizing the whole situation now, but slowly, and that's why they do it just like step by step. I don't know. That's just how I observe it right now. I have a lot of friends that I don't think they get the whole situation. They think this is over in like 2 weeks. And it's like, no, it's not. It's also not gonna
be over.
It's not gonna be over in a month when right now they say the lectures start again in a month. It's like, no, there's no way they will start in a month. Maybe the whole semester is cancelled. Maybe they try the online thing. I'm not sure if that's gonna work because my uni is like not at all equipped to do that. But we'll see. That's gonna be an interesting time. And yeah, I was actually traveling home on the weekend to my parents, which live in another state, which is more populated and hits much worse with this crisis. And I was already feeling like, oh, should I go there? Shouldn't I go there? And I was stressing out the entire weekend because on the weekend, everything was happening. The entire restrictions, all the news, everything was happening on that weekend. Luckily, everything went well, but I could only relax when I was like back on the state border in where I live. Because I knew even if things become really bad, I'm at least in the same state and I can travel in the same state. So it's fine. Because where I live now, I feel relatively safe. I can go outside, it's like few hundred meters, and I'm in a forest. So it's not like I'm in a city center where I have to keep in my apartment all year.
Just to note in the chat, I'm just seeing someone saying in Holland's the had longer lines than the supermarkets. So, just putting it out there.
But yeah, that's basically my situation. Yeah.
I have a question for you then, and everyone else that's already talked to. If you started feeling sick, do you know what to do to get tested? And do you think you could even get a test at this point?
Hell no. No, that you can only, if you've got mild symptoms, you just have to self-isolate, stay at home. Don't call 999, which is, emergency. Don't even call 111, which is advisory. Just stay at home and wait for 14 days. It's only if you start, coughing up blood or, passing out.
Yeah. Here they did the same, basically. Like they are telling you not to call the 112, which is like the emergencies phone number here. And if you have like severe symptoms, then they bring the testing equipment to your house. Like they come to your house and test you, and that's what they are doing right now. They are improving and optimizing this, for example, here in Spain, and they will eventually, because right now they're only testing the worst, the most affected people, and but they are working on a way to like test more people, because they don't want to only test like the severe ones. They also want to test the ones that are like light symptoms, because like they're all infected, and that's a problem for the people that are surrounding them, And
here's a scenario that sounds horrible to me. Like, let's say that Stefan had gone to visit his grandparents instead, who might have like an underlying health condition, and then he comes back and he starts getting all the symptoms, but he's not a serious case. Does he need to tell his grandparent, or like it becomes a point where you don't know if you've exposed other people, or especially if he'd gone into a nursing home, like that could be a huge emergency. Like, yeah,
here in Spain, they would test you in Spain. Like if you think, I don't know in Germany, but here in Spain, if you have like symptoms and it's not a severe case, for example, you would be tested, and then if you are on positive, they will test anyone you've been in close contact with. For example, if Stefan was like with his grandparents, like they would test his grandparents to see if they are like positive too, and they would like start testing people that are like critical, that have been in contact with the person.
Yeah, same thing in Hungary, but I'm unsure. We only have 50 cases, and they say that every one of them have this thing where they track down where that person or who that person met. That seems fine, but I'm not sure like if it grows to like 1,000 or like something. Like how can you track everyone down at that? Like you don't have the resources for that.
Yeah, so here there are a lot of numbers you can call. Actually, I think it depends where you live. There may be like special services set up just for your region. I'm not like too much into that stuff. Like I don't know the exact details. But there are a lot of phone numbers you can look up that you can call, but only if you have the typical symptoms like coughing and fever, then they're gonna test you, as far as I know. Otherwise, they just tell you to stay the fuck home.
You seem to know what to do better than anyone else, though. Like it seems like maybe Germany's gotten the word out better on like what you're supposed to do, or like has more of an emphasis on preemptive testing.
It can be difficult, however. So what I've heard is that some people call the hotline and they're like, yeah, go to your local doctor. And then you call the local doctor, and the local doctor is like, no, I don't have the equipment. Just like call the Ministry of Health. You call the Ministry of Health, and it's like, yeah, you should go to your doctor. And then you have an endless loop. And yeah, that can happen because it's a lot of decentralization, I think, going on. And I think it's getting better, but also worse at the same time because more people get this, so it's harder to track people down. So yeah, they would like take. Register you, know who you are, who you were in contact with, and contact them as well if you tested positive. But I think that's probably not gonna work in like a couple of days anymore because it's just too much. Yeah. And I think they already said a few days ago that at this point it's basically impossible to track down the infection chains.
Yeah. That's the stage 2, I think, where you don't know how someone got infected. So when that happens, then the whole country moves into that state. Well, we had that in Hungary. So there are people who are infected and they don't know who infected them, and that's a problem because then probably many other people are infected.
Yeah.
And wait till it gets to millions of people. Like, you know, this is only going to get worse.
In 2 weeks,
Exponentially
right?
worse.
2
So-
weeks,
Yeah.
1 million cases.
Yeah.
I want to do this again. Either we make another of these snapshot episodes, or we make more, like in smaller groups, like 2 or 3 person podcast to go in more detail. But we should definitely make more, because I think this is very interesting, looking back upon even in like a week.
Oh,
Yeah. And
different.
to be clear, right now, there's official restrictions in Spain. There's not official restrictions. There's just kind of semi-official like advisories to stay inside. But you can still go out right now if you want to in the UK, right?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I could go out to a bar right now and have a drink with a mate. Like that's
And-
no problem. Assuming it's open, which it will be, because they know that once they do close, they're going to be closed for months upon months upon months. And those businesses that have to pay rent, staff wages, they're screwed,
Well,
really.
Yeah,
so
some
yeah.
countries are like making this kind of like small business models, like they are for giving them the rent for the month, or like there is already some cases here where the like the owners of the place, of the locals and everything, they're like for giving the rent for the months that the coronavirus thing is like ongoing. I don't know, there should be like more official measurements about this, because that's
Well-
gonna be a chaos.
Like it seems like that the whole economic system is not compatible with something like this, because I mean,
capitalism is
you
gonna
could,
fall.
well,
We're having
you
a
could-
recession, economic meltdown, being imminent. Like, take it to the bank.
yeah, like you can't say that. Oh yeah, you are broke because you can't open your restaurant because there are no people. I mean, you can't do anything about.
Guys, I'm creating a company right now.
Oof.
I was
mean,
thinking,
you don't have
Hey,
payroll,
you
right?
are creating a mostly online and hardware company.
Yes.
So you just
exactly.
need to invest in a bunch of shipping labels. Way to
Although
be
once shipping gets
socially
screwed,
isolated by nature.
yeah, fair enough, but still, like the timing, oh my god. And I there's so many delays right now with my I will talk about this in detail in like another episode, but there's so many delays right now. I'm not even sure if I'm finished with this registration before I don't know, in like months or something, because if I can't move forward this week, then probably, you know, the places where they do the whole registration process and stuff might be closed, and then nothing will happen for months. So yeah.
Jonty, do you have a business as well?
Oh
do you
yeah,
have, like,
no, yeah. Maltronics Limited is registered, though. Luckily, I've just finished filing a lot of taxes and all that stuff. So even if my accountants go AWOL for a few months, I should be fine. And hopefully they put in provisions for people that can't do their books because their accountants aren't, you know, around. But yeah, no, they're going to be freezing business rates in the UK and for small businesses. But luckily for me, I don't have business rent per se. And since I'm the only employee, I can just, you know, pay myself less if, you know, things get bad. But yeah, no, the advantage is, if there is any advantage to take from this, I suppose, is that people are at home more and online. So maybe people will be watching YouTube videos slightly more. I suppose that maybe that offsets the fact that people are now thinking, you know, a recession's coming. They don't want to be spending money, that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, for everyone, I think we should all just remove all unnecessary expenses, like personal expenses, whether it's business expenses, whatever it is, and prepare for the worst, but hope for the best.
On a business level, I have mostly I produce content. So I have production people, I have other talent that I have come in and that, like, you know, any of you that like come in that like help me out. And I have people locally that I like pay to like feature their projects or have them come on. So there's some stuff I can't do anymore. Like I have to cancel my workshops, but this is actually like forcing me to really develop my live streaming game, which is ultimately probably going to be more profitable, because shipping out kits and doing workshops based on like a live stream and making it really good and engaging is way more scalable. And honestly, you know, it just makes it so you can do it from anywhere. So there's, for me anyway, for my model of business, which is to create content that's engaging, like suddenly there's tremendous demand because people are stuck at home. A lot of people are looking into online learning, and there's not a lot of Yeah, there's just not a lot of stuff that's going to be coming out the same that it was before. But we're able, just because of our really lean format of just shooting inside my house for the most part, we're able to keep producing stuff throughout this. And it's actually almost kind of good for us because I could also relocate and continue to produce the same kind of content. And that gives me more flexibility than someone who works at a job where they have to come into an office or flip a switch if they're an administrator and something needs to be restarted.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I think this is an opportunity, or rather, well, an opportunity to think really strategically. So I suppose selling things right now might be slightly more difficult, but right now people's attention is really kind of all over the place. If you can grab people's attention with more content, then yeah, that builds brand and subscribers, whatever, builds people in. And by the time things get better, hopefully you have more of a base to really kind of slingshot it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but obviously this is terrible for.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I'm not saying I'm happy about this at all. I mean, yeah, no, god awful. I mean,
there's no good side to this crisis. No one wins.
We have employees at my academy, like lots of employees, and I think it's an academy, so as you can expect, no students now. Yeah. And
we actually discussed the deal. I think that's off the table too now. Oh god.
I mean, the best you can do is try and make the most of it, whatever the situation is, or at least try and lessen the damage. But yeah, like me sitting down on my sofa just watching the news for a day, just is not helpful, I think, for anyone. And I saw an article on BBC News saying how to reduce the impact of coronavirus on your mental health, and they're saying like, don't watch the news. Like, I mean, it's on BBC. It doesn't help when you're showing all the nothing on shelves, people panicking. Yeah, but try and limit news content, I suppose.
Really interesting that this, well, the last time the kind of pandemic or similar stuff happened, that I guess this big, the difference was that people stayed home, but they had no real way to connect with others. And now we have this whole internet, and this makes it really interesting because, well, everyone is at home, but at the same time, everyone can be connected with other people in a way, and it's interesting. Like the whole schools and stuff. If I can segue into that and leave Kody for the clickbait, is that possible?
Sure.
So yeah, I wanted to about Hungary. Well, I don't know everything about how it is. I would rather share the experience of being in high school and then how this played out. Like 2 weeks ago, I guess. It was pretty chill. Like nobody really cared about it. We were, in school. The teachers started to say, you should wash your hands and they started to get worried and started to ask people like if they were traveling or if they were in Italy or not, and but it wasn't that big of a deal. And then the news really started to go up, and everyone started to panic eventually. The main thing here is that I'm in the final class, and the people, we will have the exam this year, the final exam you are supposed to be preparing for the whole 4 years you are going there, and that decides whether or not you get accepted to university. So it's an important exam for most of the people, and it looks like the whole thing is going to fall if the virus messes it up. So yeah, the panic started to go up, and yeah, well, the whole country was a bit panicking. And then one day, from my class, two people were traveling to like Austria and like another country, and then they just got back to the school, and then they were sent back home to self-quarantine. And we were like, okay, so well the guy came into school and then got sent back, so there's literally no point of sending him back anymore because he was in the school. But okay, so they sent him back, and then like the next day it got even worse. Like they said that so if anyone met anyone from a different country, just go home. And there was a girl who said like, oh well, I just met someone from London. What should? And then the teacher said, just go home. And then she just walked out of the room. And teacher said, they don't come back in like to like, okay. And they walked out. So then the panic started to rise. That was last week, the middle of last week. And they said that they will set up like sanitization in the school, so you can only go in by washing your hand and like sanitizing and all. They even wanted to do like fever, like temperature checks and everything. Well, I'm not sure if that like worked out or not, but it started to get a bit weird. Like, why are we even coming to school if that bad? Yeah, they also canceled everything. March 15 is a Hungarian holiday, and usually, you have everything like big holiday things happening there, and everything got canceled, like in every big city. And yeah, that was well, bad. But then on Friday night, Orban, the minister, he did a live stream. Well, funny enough, people in Hungary don't even use the TV anymore. They are live streaming to Facebook. That's how the government communicates. There's like Facebook pages for everyone. Weird. Anyway, he streamed and he said like they were going to close all schools. Well, before last week they closed all universities because they were very foreign people bringing the virus, and then they didn't even want to close the high schools. But then on Friday they decided to well they should close. There was a little bit of beef because if I read some news that Orban said that well they don't want to close the high schools because then would not pay the teachers, because they will not be teaching. So they did it like a big brain moment, like, okay, let's not fire the teacher, let's call it online learning, and then everything will be like before but without going to school. So well, that's what happened. Well, I can tell you that there was no online learning up to this point. It should be happening now, and I'm not even sure how. He said that there is a system, like a full-blown system, which would have been ready for September, but they will make it ready for now. That seems impossible, and when we see no signs of that system anywhere, so well, I don't know. This online learning is not really working. They're just trying.
Interesting. Yeah, I think we will see a lot more of these attempts to move things online and probably failing at first, but then getting better. But maybe this helps the entire infrastructure and like convincing people that this is the way forward.
Oh, yeah, it's a good opportunity for the world to like realize, oh my God, we can work from home, we can have online classes if there's any problem. Except right now, today I had my first online class because I didn't go to the other ones. And the teacher accidentally closed the streaming app, and he spent like probably 2 hours like teaching for himself because like there was no one watching.
Someone in the
chat sent an email.
Alt F4.
He sent an email like, "Oh, how long have I been offline?" We were like, "Since the beginning of the lecture," and he was like, "Oh my God, I've already like been teaching for 2 hours here for no one."
Wow, guys, yeah. I just want to throw something in. Because this is what I was exactly afraid of when I went home yesterday, came back home. Schleswig-Holstein, a state here, I mean, they haven't declared it, but they are very loudly thinking about closing access to the state to tourists. So basically, only people that live there could get in. And I think that's what...
Are there any tourists right now?
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
The thing is, everything's so cheap.
The prices are really cheap. Yeah, what you were saying. Basically, the prices are so low that everyone who like isn't taking this seriously, plus has a little bit of money saved up, is like, man, the deal's so good, and they're going out and
a little bit of money. The other day I checked the Skyscanner to see how like the prices of the plane tickets and everything, and I could go to basically any country in Europe for like 30 euros, like, or 40 euros, and that was like insane. Countries to where like you would check flights on a different season, and you would see like there are like 200 euros, 100 euros, and they were like for 40 euros, and I was like freaking out, like, wow. I'm socially responsible. I'm not going to travel anywhere.
I mean, before the travel ban in the US, I was looking at flights to New York out of interest, and you could get them for like £150, and usually like 600 quid. So, I mean, I wasn't considering it, but I was like, damn, you know, that's a good deal. But then again,
a lot of
people
people
get stuck away from home in something like this.
I'm still hearing about people that are refusing to cancel their cruises because like they got such a good deal, and now they're gonna have to like take in a bit. And like, why would you quarantine on a boat where you can't go outside?
It's the most.
It's like volunteering to be inside a submarine, but like you're not allowed to do anything.
But you're gonna die. That's the difference.
They're science experiments. They're locking down these cruise ships. They know that air circulates throughout them. So I know some people are speculating. I know this is a good way of telling just how infectious the virus is, because the saner thing to do would just be to offload these people and just put them into, you know, separate private accommodation. But quarantining them where, you know, air is recycled, it's madness.
Yeah. I think because I didn't answer my own question here, because I asked the other guys, what do you think is going to happen in a week? I think in Germany in a week we will see similar lockdown to that's effective in Spain. I think also in France since yesterday, Austria also. I think we will see this probably everywhere in Europe, and probably also more increasingly that they try to what's the word? Restrict travel within the states. And that was I really afraid of, because my parents live in a different state, that I couldn't come back. I actually have a friend that I talked to yesterday who's going to travel to this also in different state. And his parents don't even live near to the border, so he couldn't just like hop back. It's going to be a while to travel. He's still convinced that he should go. And I told him better not, because he doesn't want to stay with his parents if he
should
gets
go
stuck.
wherever he wants to stay. Because look at me right now. I can't go anywhere. I can only stay at home. Like,
yeah.
I cannot even see my boyfriend. He lives like 10 minutes away. It's a 10-minute drive, and I can see him for like, I don't know, 2 months.
And you just don't know how quickly this is going to happen, because they could announce it any moment. There is no, like, they're not gonna leave you time to prepare.
Yeah, no. they usually will leave you like 1 day or 2 days.
Yeah, but that's not enough. Like, maybe you read the news too late. And
I know.
You can't book anything. And then the public transport is also very limited.
I mean, if they did announce it in advance, then everyone would just start traveling, you know, just before it happens. Yeah. So they're not going to do it.
That's what happened in Italy.
So sorry, I missed
like a bunch of people. Oh, sorry. The press leaked the plan for quarantining Italy, and a bunch of people broke out like right before and spread all over the country.
Wow.
From the hotspot.
There you go. It's ridiculous. People have to be responsible in these times. It's just, we have to be on the war footing almost. I mean, that's what the Prime Minister was describing as today. I mean, the government has gone into like a warlike mindset. That's just, you know, what they got to do.
So in a week, Spain is probably still Spain. UK maybe does implement some restrictions. Germany is probably where Spain is now. What about Hungary, David?
Well, as far as I know, or as I heard, maybe we have 50 cases now. That probably means like 1,000 or something like that. So I'm guessing, like, I'm interested what it will be in 1 week. But also there are news about the lockdown, like in Spain, that you can't go out of your. Maybe that would happen, because now we don't have that. Everything is closed basically, so you can go out, but you should stay home. But you are not forced to.
Actually, I find that interesting. Let's all guess what the numbers are in a week.
Oh my God. No. We'll put a $5 on it.
I would say Germany is at. Oh shit, that's so hard.
The thing is, the official numbers aren't going to be accurate, so it's almost.
But
there's always going to be people Look at the US. Look at the US numbers. Like, it's like, yeah, we don't have anyone. It's like,
I still want to hear about the US. We haven't heard much about the US yet. Just yet.
Oh yeah,
it's like-
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
just
then let's
curious,
go. Let's go to the
Oh,
US.
US sets the standard for the rest of the world, really.
Oh shit, that's not good in this case. But
But
let's hear it from.
So democracy in the United States has reached a point where there's so much mistrust between different political parties that everyone sees an opportunity to get something through as like worth taking on the political risk of just screwing over the other side. So because there hasn't been a lot of compromise, initially our government construed this as another attack against their ability to govern. So the initial response was that this was a PR problem and that it needed to be managed and make sure that people didn't perceive it negatively. So rather than our federal government, which is the strongest ability to protect against this sort of problem, taking charge and leading states with some sort of guideline, there was a complete vacuum of power. So what happened was we had individual states and cities left to make their own decisions. Many of them did not take it seriously. Some of them maybe overreacted. Some of them underreacted. And the result was incredibly inconsistent availability of testing. So initially, I went to the RSA conference, and that was something that was pretty anxiety provoking for me. I used hand sanitizer like every 30 seconds. Like, it was ridiculous. But and of course, like at the time, like that's when China was a hotspot, and I'm sitting there being anxious, and in my capacity at my job, I'm shaking hands with literally the representative from the agricultural bank from China, and other people that are like walking up and like talking to people at booths and stuff. And that's very like, so after that, we find out that 2 people from RSA got sick, and one of them is in a coma. And I have a couple red lines personally. And one of them is when people on my Twitter feed, who, I follow like maybe like 600, 700 people. If some of those people start getting sick, and also if events I've attended start being places that are known places where the disease was transmitted, then for me, that is when this gets real, and I'm not waiting any further than that. So I got back from my trip to Germany, actually, where I met a bunch of you. And on that trip, when I got back, there were people asking me if I had been to a farm or if I had traveled to Wuhan. And I was like, I'm from Southern Oregon. Like, there's a lot of libertarians there. They like prepping is like ingrained in like our kind of like just like life. So as soon as I hear that, I'm like, everybody coughing around me is instantly the enemy. And I was like, this is like, let's take this seriously. So I get back and I start talking to my roommates. I'm like, let's buy extra stuff. Like, let's really like kind of step this up. So we made sure back then to start stocking up a little bit because we are afraid of shit like this. So things went on. We went to RSA. We came back. We find out that it's spreading much more rapidly in San Francisco than in other areas, which is where we just were, which kind of freaks us out. So that's the point where I'm like, all right, guys, like we need to go, to Costco and have enough stuff for the next couple weeks and stuff, because it might not be available. And sure enough, when we went to Costco, it was really crowded. People were still being civil, but there were certain items where if anyone took more than 2 things, the people around them would run in and grab 2 of them too, because they weren't sure what was going to be short. There was no official guidance. There were no restrictions on sales. From the very onset, there were pretty big mistakes in the way that the response was managed, because each individual person was left up to their own anxiety as to how much stuff to take. So I have up to 4 people staying with, so like living in one place. So we have to manage for 4 people, which is a relatively larger supply of things than if it was just one person living in an apartment. So, for us, like stocking up was like kind of a big deal, because if we run out of toilet paper, there's 4 dudes at our house. Like, that's not good. So like a lot of what we did in the beginning was just taking the thought of like, all right, if there's a shortage on this sort of stuff, like how would we manage it, and going and taking care of that early. We were about maybe a week, 2 weeks behind the first wave of shortages. As soon as that hit, you could not get those items anywhere. And that's when people saw shortages on their shelves, that's when everyone who was starting to, who I spoke to and I thought was, very, I have friends from school who are very smart, who I trust very much in an emergency, who were reading the numbers from China in Korea and seeing them trending down and interpreting that as being, this is going to blow over very soon. The virus numbers are going down. That means that this is over. And I was trying to tell, I was like basically using all of the authority I had, like, listen to me. Like, this is not going to be over so quickly. If you trust me, I want you to listen to me on this. And they're like, no, I'm not. And I was like, there's no joy in saying I told you so when it's your friends and your family and other people you care about, like putting themselves and other people at risk. It sucks and it's very uncomfortable. And like, in some ways, I wish that I'd been a little bit more insistent or maybe even called them and pressed the case a little bit, because it's not, you know, it's not me that's going to have to deal with the consequences of that if you don't take it seriously and you wind up in an area where you're stuck in an uncomfortable situation for maybe a long period of time. If you're potentially exposing people and didn't know about it because you're asymptomatic and picked it up from someone in a communal environment, like I don't know, like living in a dorm or something like that, like all of those problems are really difficult to deal with if you're not taking it seriously from the beginning. And the number one problem has been the lack of federal response, and the lack of unity has made it so that each individual municipality is dealing with this in their own brand. So we have people who are so concerned about the businesses being shut down that they're saying, you know, like, we're not pansies, like, go out and support your local businesses, like, don't listen to this like democratic like hoax. And those are the people who are going to be flooding the hospitals at the expense of people who did prepare. And that sucks, because right now people are making choices that in 2 weeks to a month are going to bear fruit. The people that they choose to expose themselves to now, and then the people they expose themselves to over the next couple of weeks, are going to define how many people with, you know, compromised immune systems, underlying conditions, or people who are elderly are exposed or die. And on top of that, we don't know if this virus is going to mutate, if it is going to change, recombine with some other sickness or illness and become more deadly. So, you know, right now the situation is completely fluid. There are people who are contributing to the spread of the disease and potentially the mutation of the disease, as well as to the mortality rate in seniors, and they're acting flippant, and it pisses me off. I'm not the police. You know, we don't have a federal response that's going to limit people. I went to a coffee shop before things shut down, and there was a guy coughing. Like, he was clearly sick. God. I tweeted about this because it made me so angry. Coughing everywhere, not covering his coughs. And I looked him in the eye and I was like, cover your cough. And he looked shocked. Like, that would be like I was being rude. It's like, you were insane. Like, why would you throw a parade for your cough right now? Like, stay at home. You're making people uncomfortable. And this poor waitress now has to make the decision of like how to sanitize your area for the next person, or like risk like getting a bunch of people sick all day. Like, this is ridiculous. So like, people who don't stay at home when they're sick, people who don't listen to these quarantines, these are the people that are going to cause a big spike in the overwhelming of our healthcare capacity in the next couple months. And the chart that I'm looking at from the researchers in the UK that's showing what happens if we don't take these things seriously is scary. It shows a big spike in deaths between May and June that doesn't really come down until the end of July. So these are like millions of deaths, and these are preventable deaths, which is why in some countries you can be charged with endangering people or even manslaughter for going out and defying these quarantines, because you're directly endangering public health of people who are trying to do the right thing. And maybe exactly, like, if you know that you're sick, let's say you test positive, and then you're going out to, you know, a crowded grocery store rather than staying home in self-isolation, like, you could get dozens of people sick, and one of those people could die, or it could spread it to a loved one or an elderly person. Is that justice? Like, there's whole parts of the legal system now that have to address people who are not obeying these restrictions that are at first voluntary and now becoming mandatory. But then we get into people spreading false information. Yeah. So in the United States, specifically in my area in Los Angeles, we currently, up north where I just was in San Francisco, there is now a shelter in place, which I was raised to believe meant that there was an earthquake, but in this case means that you have to stay inside your house and not leave. And it's basically a quarantine without the full force of a quarantine. They're basically trying a soft quarantine before they do a real quarantine. They restricted the movement, the domestic travel of all military personnel a week and a half ago. And that was a big bellwether for me as well, where they're freezing, you know, military assets in place and reducing the amount of domestic travel that is permissible. And that points to a federal response coming down the pipeline as Donald Trump starts to wake up to the seriousness of this and also realize that, like, he's been putting himself in danger, and he's super paranoid about germs and shit. So at this point, the fact that the federal response is now waking up is way too late. So we're going to have a really large spike in casualties. We're going to see local restrictions that escalate as cases escalate out of control. Currently, in my area, I have been looking at shortages of testing for people with clear links to events that had positive test results, as well as people who were traveling. They are not able to get tests. They have incredibly convoluted, frustrating ways of attempting to get tests, and those who have gotten tested have done so at the expense of several days worth of effort. And this is while feeling like absolute shit and having to also deal with the fact you can't go into work, you might not be able to pay certain bills, you're feeling terrible, the stores are sold out of essentials, you cannot get thermometers in the United States. How do you tell if you have a qualifying fever if all the thermometers are sold out?
It's crazy.
So there are people who are in a catch-22 situation where they are obviously positive for this disease and cannot get the kind of testing necessary to verify that, because either they're not going to die, or they haven't had a clear. I heard a case of an emergency room worker in Pasadena, a nurse, who could not get tested because the testing center told her that if she wore her respirator properly, then she would not get infected. Even though she had been around confirmed positive cases. So even though she had exposure, she was told, basically, if you fucked up, it's on you. That is such a terrifying way to feel for an emergency room worker, someone who's on the front lines and deals with patients who have critical illnesses and immunocompromised systems. Like how is it not relevant that a healthcare worker be able to get a test? So this is, I'm just reporting the news here. It does not look good. There's substantial spread, community spread, that I was reading about on Twitter. This is not the news reporting it. I'm seeing people that I'm following from the scale of Southern California Linux Expo getting sick in clusters in Pasadena and Long Beach. And this was not on the news. So, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist. I'm literally just telling you that I see groups of healthcare workers unable to be tested, that I can see just by looking at people I know on social media and staying true to who's sick and who's not. And I also want to say, thank you to the security community in general for posting about your experiences, and everyone on Twitter that I follow that has gotten sick or that has documented what has happened to them. It has helped me stay safer and made those experiences more real for me. So the fact that people are out there posting about their experiences, what's happening, and keeping other people aware of what happens if you were to get sick. I'm in a hotspot. I mean, I guess all of us kind of are now, but in particular, Southern California is a hotspot. So the restrictions are voluntary. Most restaurants have closed. Most venues have closed. You can't eat in at this point, so there's no ability to actually. Oh yeah, someone's echoing a little bit. There's no ability to eat indoors nowadays. But really, that's better. Yes, that's fixed. Really, the problem is you can go ahead and patronize these restaurants, but a lot of businesses are shutting down and have absolutely no way of experience in an online way. So venues are screwed over, bars are screwed over. There's lots of things that are not going to be able to function here. And there's a lot of people also that can't pay their rent because of that. So we're having to see support come from the county and the city for not enforcing evictions. And then people in the middle class are saying all right, well, I own apartments. What happens to me? Do I get bailed out too? So things are not as simple as they seem initially. It's okay, well, we want people to stay home, and then we can't get these businesses to get them paid sick time off. And then if they do get paid sick time off, then these businesses need to be bailed out too, because they can't do the jobs that they need to do. So everyone suddenly needs help. The federal government isn't able to meet the needs because they don't understand the intricacies of each group that needs help. So they're trying to give a blanket. They're all right, everyone gets $1,000, problem solved. But it's if you're a landlord that now can't collect all the rent for all the properties that you own, that $1,000 doesn't really help you that much, because that doesn't go anywhere near towards making sure you don't default on your bank loans or whatever you have going on. So businesses are really suffering right now, especially ones that are hit hard by this. My business is fine because we mostly produce content and we can shoot it from inside a studio. Not everyone has that luxury. So there's a lot of people who are really angry and are defying what is right now a voluntary set of orders because, they don't have to. Really, there's no government that's forcing them to stay indoors. There's no quarantine, and there's no quarantine that is publicly on the horizon. But I would say, from my perspective, there's going to be a serious lockdown of this part of the country coming in the next week or so. That's just how I feel like things are going to work out based on what I'm seeing in other areas. There's going to be a substantial limitation of movement. And right now, the mere suggestion of a shortage of something is enough to cause a run on nearly anything. So about 4 or 5 days ago, the National Rifle Association posted something on Facebook that was allegedly a leaked document from a possible scenario for a quarantine situation that limited the ability to buy firearms and ammunition. And as a result, there was a nationwide run on guns and ammunition. So right now, if you start driving around and look in the city, there are lines outside of gun stores that stretch around the block.
That's
and that
insane.
is because well, that's because here people are afraid of quarantines. They're afraid of restrictions that prevent them from being able to buy things that they view as essential. And in my neighborhood, I live in an area that used to be pretty rough. Not even that long ago. And it's been somewhat gentrified, but the point of living in Los Angeles is you try to find a balance between affordable rent and acceptable danger. And in my neighborhood, I've heard more gunfire than I've heard in the last 4 years combined, which makes me really uncomfortable to stay in this area if things were to get worse. Not everyone is prepared. Not everyone has the resources to be prepared, and a lot of people waited too late, and now there's not supplies. So if today there was a federal or local quarantine of this area, there are so many people that don't have the food or resources to hold out that people would start to panic. And the fact that there's been a run on guns makes me feel like people who do have supplies are probably pretty concerned about those who don't have supplies starting to get desperate. So, in the United States, there's this weird, yeah, government's great until it doesn't work, and then we have to plan. So there's been a big run on anything seen as survival supplies, MREs, meals ready to eat, anything that can help you hold out for a long period of time. But anybody that isn't kind of like a prepper or at least tuned into the news has waited too long. And now they're starting to panic because they can't get essentials like toilet paper, certain types of food. Really, the food problems aren't as severe as people think. There's a lot of stuff that's sold out, but provided you're willing to eat frozen food. Like I went to a grocery store and I had to wait in a fairly long line, but I was able to get, $50 worth of frozen lasagna and stuff. And it's going to be enough food for, me for maybe like a week or so. So there's definitely still stuff out there, but the problem is nobody is really, I saw a couple masks for people in the grocery store, but because there's no cohesive guidelines, everybody's looking to each other in order to determine how to react. Because this is an unprecedented situation. No one knows what the right move is. So one of my friends works in a call center.
The WHO already announced how to react, and everyone's announcing how to react, on how to wear the masks or not wearing the mask indeed, but all these problems are now caused because people are just running around. For example, what you said before, the thing is that people are markets are running out of resources. It's basically because people are panicking and they're just buying lots of stuff like the toilet paper.
Oh god, my connection is breaking up. Shit. Uh-oh. Let's go to Russia. Where's Russia? There's Russia.
Oh no.
Hello.
Okay.
Hey.
Hello.
Yeah, we moved to Russia. Now it's fine.
Okay. Discord did have outages earlier today.
Yes.
Everyone
is home.
I was just going to just what you were saying, Dean. The reason masks and putting something over your face.
What I was saying is that all the main health.
I don't know what's going on.
All the main health. Why is there so much echo?
Echo. There's no echo for me.
Okay, so the thing is that there's already big organizations that are suggesting how to react, like the WHO. They're telling people not to use masks and leave them for people that really need them, infected people or people that have other diseases and healthcare system workers. And the thing is that with the supplies, it's basically with all this prepper thing and people buying stuff. It's not markets that are just running out of stuff, because it's a pandemic, it's a global event. It's basically because people are freaking out, everyone's panicking. They are just like, oh my god, I need to restock everything. But I'm not just restocking, I'm buying like for restocking myself like toilet paper for like 5 years of toilet paper. And you see people here on their houses, they are like storing like not even but around like hundreds of like toilet paper packages. And it's like, why are you doing this? Like, because like if everyone just kept on buying the same stuff they were buying before, nothing would run out of. Like we would still have all the resources. We would still have toilet paper, we would still have meat, we would still have vegetables, we would still have everything. And it's just people freaking out, and that's so irresponsible, actually.
Well, I mean, there's also a lot of uncertainty because nobody knows if their area is going to be quarantined or not. So they're all preparing for potentially, 2-3 months worth of being stuck at home or not being able to anticipate something being in stock. So
even in quarantine, you can still go out for buying food. Like
Not
they are not
right,
like
but
forbidding you.
right, but if you're buying, I mean, people here are thinking like, okay, if I have a family and I need to go out and buy toilet paper and it's going to be 3 months, like, they need a certain amount of that, and now it's not available. So that's why people are also starting to, then they turn to online services, and those have deliveries that are now delayed for up to months, potentially. So
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff that people are like, oh, everyone who is going to stores right now is an idiot. I'll just buy it on Amazon Prime. They're like, okay, that's 2 months. from
50
now.
euros.
Like, yeah,
Is that really
it's really getting
in America? Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had to search for a good hour to find a thermometer that could be delivered by the end of the month.
Wow.
Just
I mean,
like,
America's so much bigger. I mean, it's much more of a like
But
supply
it's not
chain.
only that,
Here in the
like-
UK, everything's so close together. It's not really much of an issue. I can still buy whatever it is and have it next day. Though, yeah, no, it's bad. I mean, one thing I was just going to say on the importance of covering your face and making sure you stay away from infected areas is that if you do get ill, there's different levels of ill, and the viral load you receive from someone else is super important. So if you only get a very small viral load and you only get a few viruses, I suppose, your body has a much longer time to prepare its defenses and generates T cells, because it sees the virus and it can, it has time to prepare the defenses, because these viruses need to replicate, and that takes time. However, if you're really laissez-faire about this kind of thing, you don't try and cover your face, your nose, you don't do any of that, and you get a large viral load, then it escalates a lot quicker. Your body doesn't have time to build up. You can get a lot sicker, and this increases a lot of, the chance of death and more serious health issues. Like I was going to note as well, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, so stop me if I did, but even people who recover, who were completely healthy beforehand, can be left with permanent lung damage. I mean, of course, this is
losing
evolving
20%.
very quickly. But they showed like 15 to 20% of people who do recover, they can have their lung capacity reduced by up to 30%. So they can, they won't be able to walk briskly without breathing deeply, and that can take decades to recover from. So it's really important that people be mindful of these things, because, yeah, it's just a bit of a crazy situation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so here...
I was going to say I find it kind of interesting. I can see some similarities to the US from Germany, which sounds weird, but as I said, this mentality here is a bit conservative, like, yeah, let's just wait it out, not overreact. That's kind of the mentality, and that's like really bad in this situation. But luckily, as I said last week, the politicians, the government kind of wake up suddenly and did all these things, which are essentially waking up all the people now. And it's interesting because look at the US, and it's like the exact same. They're all very afraid of the consequences of implementing these restrictions, as they were here and discussing them all day. But the difference is here the government stepped up and actually did the right thing, even like throughout party lines and everything. They just like completely overcome their difficulties. I'm amazed by this, actually. Meanwhile, in the US, it's apparently quite a shit show. And they're
One
not.
senator blocked a support package because he didn't want to offer paid sick leave to workers.
Oh my god! Yeah,
Wow.
dude, that's the thing, right? There are so many problems coming up if you say that your entire population must stay home, basically. But here they are coming up with solutions on the way, and that's exactly what you should do. Basically implement these lockdowns to slow down further spread, and then you have time to think of helping people, setting up credits for small businesses, paid sick leave, all this stuff. You can figure it out, and you should figure it out fast. But first, implement these measures to keep it from spreading. Because if you don't, then it's too late. Who cares? Who cares if you have money if you're dead?
Yeah. I mean,
well, right now also.
Sorry, go on.
Ahead.
I was just gonna say the US is a very, I would just from my perspective, it's much more of an individualist society. So people more look out for themselves, their families. Whereas Europe and Spain, Italy, it's much more collectivist to a certain extent. So people are much easily brought together. But especially in places, even like London, where it's much more metropolitan, it's much more, I suppose, fragmented. It's going to be really difficult for people to band together. You're going to see a lot of social unrest if it gets, really bad.
Yeah, there's just a really, you're right. Like the U.S. is much more individualistic. Like I think we're going to have a better chance of just isolating ourselves because everyone kind of anticipates having to plan for themselves at least somewhat. But yeah, it's a little discouraging because an aggressive early federal response that gave good guidance and was able to get people tested early on would have made this a non-event. Like our country was completely capable of dealing with an event like this efficiently and using its massive resources to save money later on. But we didn't, and we didn't do that for a lot of reasons. I would point out the fact that we fired our entire pandemic response team, the group that was responsible for planning what to do in a situation like this. And then we acted surprised when this got really bad. So treating this like a PR problem, firing the people who actually were qualified and able to do something about it, and then failing to use our massive resources to actually save money later on, it's kind of a hallmark of our society right now. But yeah, it's just that argument is do you give homeless people a place to live, or do you pay their expenses every time they go to the ER? Which one is more expensive? And they can do the studies and show you that it's more cost effective to give them a place to live because then they don't go to the ER and you don't have to have that taxpayer burden. But people don't believe it. They still see it as as giving a handout, and that's not fair. But when it makes society better, there's a hard line as to when you're able to screw over the poorest and most vulnerable people and say it's their fault for not having better resources. And we're bumping up against that problem right now because our healthcare system is incredibly unprepared for this. We've got this tough guy mentality where it's just you don't have health insurance, better not get sick. It's so many people are cool with that. This is the worst possible scenario for them. That
oh god.
We basically had our government first tell us hey, listen very carefully, health insurance is very important and you should have it, and it was a very hard sell. People hated it. They're health insurance terrible. But now they're just well, thank God for our insurance companies aren't going to be too badly hit because there's so many uninsured people. It's those people are going to die. It's you don't think that's a problem? You're happy about the impact not being so bad on insurance. It's just
that's insane.
My God. So there are people who are more financially concerned about having to go into work because their companies are not letting them work from home. I have a friend, actually my friend who made fun of you guys for being nerds earlier, is working from home because he finally convinced his work, who is on the same floor as a freaking clinic that sees people with flu symptoms all day, that he could work from home. This is a call center. He's been in our studio doing his job probably better and easier than he does in the actual office all day. And he had to fight with his manager this morning in order to get that to happen. And he was afraid he was going to get fired. There's a lot of people who feel that way here. So
Italy just passed a law, like a temporal law. I don't know if it was yesterday or today. So no one can fire anyone while this is going on, and it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
There are people here that have been fired that I know of on Twitter for asking for accommodations. There are people who are immunocompromised that try not to come into the office and are told that they can't do that. There's a lot of people who are being the victims of employers who are greedy, unprepared, or fundamentally just don't understand what's happening. There was not to get too specific, but my friend is working with a group that is heavily involved in this big Brazilian megachurch, and their position was, if God's plan is to get sick, then you just got to get sick and not question it. And that was so scary and dangerous to me, because like they don't get to make that choice for every employee at that company. Like that's, I would find that very unreasonable. So the fact that the people in a position of power believe that this was part of like a religious event means that my friend very, very clearly felt like he would be fired or otherwise, prevented from doing what he needs to at a bare minimum to keep his family safe. Because when he's living with his family, he has to consider their health as well. And if any one of them is the weakest link, he could be the one that's responsible for that person getting sick if he doesn't insist now. So the responsibility has shifted to individual employees to insist that they not be put in positions of risk, because employers are not doing so voluntarily, and there's no federal or state guidance on how to manage this. So the situation is both like complicated and also just like horrible for a lot of people being put in positions where they have no idea whether they expose someone who might be vulnerable.
I mean, you guys have got election coming up, right? So that just complicates things even further, because I mean, the old mantra is it's the economy, stupid. So if people don't want to, if the politicians don't want to take drastic steps that could negatively impact the economy, then it just screws everything up even more. Because it's just a massive obstacle that you guys really don't need right now. I mean, we've just cancelled our elections for a year, so they've just been pushed ahead till 2021. So I don't know how it will affect you guys.
Well, we're also seeing one account that I follow is, I think it's like Bot Sentinel. And Bot Sentinel follows troll bots that are operated by like other governments and stuff, and keeps track of what they're tweeting about. They're all over this. They're trying to use this as another wedge between the left and the right in order to cause as much disruption as possible. So this event, as well as anything else that can be exploited, is definitely coming up in our elections. So yes, it's really politically sensitive to take any major action right now, because there's an army of troll bots that are willing to create a bunch of fake news articles about it, fire up one side or the other, and cause real deaths by causing delays and other sorts of misinformation to spread about the kinds of policies that need to be out there. So, I mean, it's a real chance for our adversaries to go in and start messing things up and getting people to put the brakes on things that will save lives.
Gosh.
Crazy. I think this is actually, this crisis is a good example of why healthcare, like universal healthcare, is important. Because if you just say, why do I have to pay for other people's healthcare? You're gonna die eventually because of shit like this. And exactly. There will be a recession probably. I mean, people are afraid of saying that, but if you just look at how each country is reacting, how they put billions or trillions into the economy right now, I think we are in a recession probably already. We just don't know it yet because we can't see the symptoms yet. And
wait till Q3.
I think, especially because the US is reacting so poorly, this will have a very lasting effect, and especially since China is doing so well. So that's going to be very interesting world after this crisis, and the only thing we can hope for is that maybe we learn from it and restructure our economy. Maybe.
Freedom is a really great thing. The Chinese response to this was based on kind of a belief that like humanity is one organism and must be regulated like a machine. So there was a lot of things that people in the West would consider to be extremely draconian that successfully halted the spread of the virus, that frankly are somewhat incompatible with the way that we view the way that life should be.
And now we are copying that.
Well, yes, because really what this is it is also a test to see if our method of government and if our type of society can survive an event like this without having to sacrifice all the things that we enjoy so much. So if we want to basically come out of this on good footing, we need to be able to have an effective response without sacrificing as much of our liberties as possible. Hopefully, not on a permanent basis, but going to like a Chinese style society because of an event like this, there was a lot of things that changed in our country after the September 11th attacks, where a lot of different things accelerated because people were afraid, and it allowed power to be consolidated. It allowed substantial political change, and my worry is if this event accelerates, if lots of people die, if there's instability, what kind of changes could happen as a result. To, right now we see in Israel some really interesting stuff coming out about their surveillance capability now being used for public health. And it's quite controversial, but it sounds like, in some cases Israel's pulling out all the stops and even like, taking the veil off of some of these secret programs and machines they have going on that are able to track people's movements very, very closely, and suddenly being like, all right, this stuff is now out in the open. Just so you know, this has been on the entire time. Now we're using it for public health, but this thing is going to stay on, and you just need to get used to it. Is that a good response right now? When you should be pulling out all the stops? Like it very well could be. But my fear is also like seeing some sort of like 9/11 style like change in the laws in order to track people more narrowly, in order to use surveillance technology, or otherwise like call up emergency powers, like if we need to, in order to concentrate power. So it's just kind of spooky. Like you see that the way to beat this is to either act together by understanding the threat and taking appropriate measures, and if that fails, then the government has to step in and force stupid people to stop, screwing everyone else over. As much as that can be voluntary is as much of our society that works. If we can have these soft quarantines, if we can avoid having soldiers in the street in order to enforce these things, and it means that our system of government can handle this sort of thing, even if it didn't have the best start, which is, again, depressing. But if we are fundamentally unable to come together to respond to this in a way that makes sense, then like we can expect that our method of government and our method of just society is going to be challenged, and whatever society can stand up to this sort of emergency best is going to be in the best position at the end of all of this. So it's really up to us.
Had the Patriot Act shortly after 9/11, so that had a big impact on surveillance and all that kind of stuff. So we're still waiting to see what's going to happen based on this, and something is going to happen. I think this could be monumental.
Yeah, there's a lot of, right now everyone's in emergency mode, and while everyone is distracted, this is an opportunity that some people are going to take advantage of in order to pass new laws. Right now, encryption is under attack in the United States. There's some laws that are trying to make it illegal to have encryption that doesn't have backdoor in certain types of communication that are going through Congress. So this would be a big deal if other things weren't happening, but it's just really important to not get too distracted and also not panic, but also really take these things seriously. And if you see people acting recklessly, like everyone is looking to someone else to tell them how to behave. That can be you in your community, or that can be you in your social group, or you can kind of like spread that throughout your group of friends, that if others around you are acting irresponsibly, like it is down to you individually to make sure that our style of freedom works by leaning on those social bonds and making sure that the people around you are aware of the threat and how they should be reacting. Because there's so many people who don't know, and either could be through no fault of their own, or it could be through just nobody has taken the time to really impress upon them like what they should be doing. People are just looking around for what to do, and a lot of bad information is out there. So I'm not saying that people who are doing things that are putting others at risk are blameless, but I'm also not saying that they're being deliberately malicious. A lot of the time, like it's down to providing good examples and getting good information out there that can really help in this sort of thing. Because again, others are taking the opportunity to spread false information, bad information, or advance their own agendas.
Okay, guys, we are already way over time.
We've had a good run through.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't want to stop this flow, but I think we should do this again.
I have some shopping. Yeah, I have some shopping to do as well. So.
I have some dinner to do.
A couple of things I wanna say or ask beforehand. I was going to ask everyone not only what you expect in a week, but what you expect in a month and a year. But I realized how this was going progressing this episode, that this is pointless. Even I can only think of like 3 days ahead. I have no idea what's in a week.
I can't even think above 1 week, because like.
Yeah, exactly.
Things are changing so fast, and governments are taking such never seen before measurements, and they are just doing things like improvising and like trying new things and copying each other. The same thing that Kody said that's happening with locals and people seeing each other to see how people react. Is the same thing is happening with governments. Like someone takes this measurement, and then this other government takes a measurement that's basically the same, and then everyone starts copying each other, and
Someone
that's
just has
how
to
it's
start.
working. Yeah, and it's gonna be something like really. I hope like from a year now, there will be a vaccine and this won't be a huge problem. But we'll go through an economic recession. Like it's gonna be horrible. Like the crisis is gonna hit pretty hard.
The thing is, it's just no way to guess what it's gonna look like because it's so different to previous crises. Yeah. One thing I want to ask everyone: what's your like everyday life now? What's your schedule or what's your plan?
Stay at home, work, try and make the most of the free time, the time that I'm not socializing anymore for obvious reasons. So yeah, just trying to keep myself busy. That's all I can do. Yeah,
the same. Like I just like work out and like try to stay healthy because like you're not going out, you're not really moving at all, and I'm also like playing some video games, going to online university, studying, and just hiking around, like making some like old projects I had around on my project thrower, and just like trying to like you're the same as John to like try to keep me entertained.
Yeah, I will also look that I continue working on my projects. Yesterday we had the last Hackerspace meetup, basically, for a long time, probably. I don't know if it even was responsible to meet up yesterday, but again, this culture here, it didn't really hit this. People don't understand this situation yet. I wanted to see everybody for last time. I think we were 6 people, I can't remember. Went to the youth center for last time for a while and kind of planned how we're gonna continue. And what we do is what most people probably do. We move our meetings online. So we're just gonna meet up at the same time, just like on Discord instead of in the physical places. And we are there were discussions of setting up a Minecraft server or something. I don't know, just like playing together, keeping us busy. And
I have about a week before there's going to be like serious restrictions on travel. My friends and I have been mostly self-isolating, but also making sure that we're about, like a week or so ahead of the like shortages. So like we can generally anticipate the stuff that's going to be sold out or that in short supply, and we're trying to like make sure we have those things before they get sold out. And so far we've been pretty successful. Next step is deciding where we want to ride this out. We know based on the severity of other places that right now I can work from anywhere, especially if I'm just doing some of the easier to produce stuff like live streaming and some, like null byte episodes, that sort of stuff. So we're considering, a group of my friends are considering moving out of Los Angeles for a little bit while we still are able to. Especially if we're in a place where it's just us that we're interacting with. It's easy to go like hiking, whatever we want to do, like while we're kind of like not able to do anything else. And I would love to have a situation where it's like me and maybe like 3 other people that I'm close with in an area that might be a little bit more remote, that's not going to be as hard hit by this, but still has enough medical facilities that there's a hospital fairly nearby. So might be moving. We'll see. There's some intricacies I still need to work out, and again, this is just I need to make a decision now. If I'm not serious about this and consider the option in a week, I won't have the choice. So yeah, maybe when we do this next check-in, I'll be streaming from like, I don't know, like Eastern Wyoming or something. Who knows?
Just saying,
Bunker.
I will say one thing. It's real cheap out there. So if you're looking for a beautiful place to like live stream and all you need is good fast internet, like there are a lot of options that might work out. Again, that's not for everyone. I'm single. The amount of my responsibilities, I have a cat that was born under my house. So like, I haven't exactly like signed up for a lot of things that like limit my ability to like, I'm not going to school right now. Most of my stuff is based on content that I can shoot virtually anywhere. So if I wanted to go off, and turn this into a little bit of an adventure, I would be able to still do that. But most people aren't in that position. So the next week or so is going to be pretty crazy for me while I look at cost, expenses, like what it would take to actually pull this off, and like see if the group I'm friends with is actually serious about this, and also figure out what to do about my apartment, although it looks like no evictions will be happening, so essentially free rent. So for me, I can spend over $1,000 on an apartment in Los Angeles, or I could spend $300 for a quarter of a place somewhere that's going to be less affected by this. So I feel like a lot of people are doing the same thing. Again, trying to stay ahead of the curve on this one, but it also just might not be necessary, or it just might not, frankly, be possible. So,
yeah, luckily the place I live in is, I think, by nature for this relatively safe. The city doesn't have a big population. It's quite small. The number of cases around is low. The number of cases in our state is pretty low. But I mean, that's due to the state in general isn't that populated. But yeah, I can walk to the next door. It's probably not one of those where preppers go all crazy about, and there were some shortages, but I think it's gonna be fine. And I can also just like go out in the in the forest or something. It's not like I mean, I'm not saying I'm go out camping or whatever. I'm just saying like I don't live in the center of Madrid, for example.
Yeah,
and parks are closed or something. I can easily, go out, catch some air, and I'm really glad I have that.
We have one prepper friend who's planned for anything, even no matter how big or small, is to just go out in the woods and just survive on nature. I was like, you can't have the same plan for every event. It just doesn't scale.
I mean, that's a nice romantic idea, but I think it'll get old after like a week or so of eating squirrel or something.
I was like, so what happens if you get bit by a snake? What hospital will you be going to full of old dying people from the virus? Like, is going to like take you for a stupid snake bite that you could have not gotten?
Johnny looking at snake.
Jonty snack. Oh my god. Okay, wait, Jonty is getting his snack. Actually, we had another guest on the podcast who canceled because he's going to meet some friends, and I don't want to shit talk him too much, but still.
What country are they in? Maybe I'll avoid that country.
No,
it's a small country.
You're not gonna avoid it. Not you, Kody. I'm gonna tell you later. Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, keep calm and stay the fuck home, guys.
Wow.
There he is.
Wow.
He's gonna bite you.
He's got a bit of a bulge here because of the food. He's never bitten me before. Let's see if we can get him to the.
Wow.
Clickbait. That's gonna be the thumbnail. It's gonna be the thumbnail if I upload this to YouTube or something. Yeah.
Oh. No, people are gonna be like, what did the snake say about the virus?
Okay, while everyone is distracted, keep in mind.
It looks like 4 people are
I don't know why.
Oh my god. Everyone's talking. So keep in mind, even like experts say, like 80% of the cases are mild. Even if the number is higher, if at 80%, that means 1 of 5 cases is hospitalized. Like, we are 5 people in this stream right now. If we all get infected, chances are very high that one of us has to go to the hospital. And if the hospitals are full, then chances are very high you could die. And so this is like, I have friends that take that not that seriously, or I think they don't take that seriously. They don't understand the situation yet. Even if the mortality rate isn't that high, even if you're young and healthy, that doesn't have to mean anything. Consider how many people you know and how high the chances are that maybe, Jonty, okay. I feel like I don't come off as serious while Jonty's doing that.
I'm so sorry.
But I'm just gonna ignore that.
I think we should give the advice. We should like remember everyone the advices that WHO is giving out on this podcast.
I'll go put the snack away. He's there he is. He's called
we are not like we are not doctors or anything. I'm just saying because I have friends that could be on this podcast but decided not to, and I think they're gonna be fine. Like, this is just starting out, but that's still like, stay the fuck home. Just stay the fuck home.
It's and stay at home, wash your hands, just check for fake news around, and just like have like just get some distance from other people, and just try to be socially responsible and try to think about other people, and don't freak out with these things, and buy all the resources on the supermarkets. Okay.
Kody, I'm not shit talking James.
James didn't know that until you just said so.
True, but everyone in the stream can receive the pop-ups from the notifications, so I just want to clarify that for later. I think David, you have like a schedule set up, right, for your day?
Well, I tried to do something because otherwise it can really fall apart. So I think it's important to have some kind of schedule. I try to do the get back doing bug bounty, and also I want to get more into like music stuff, which I'm really a beginner in. And well, this is a great time to do hobbies and stuff like that. You never had time before. And also something I want to stress is that like exercise is really important. I mean, you kind of don't want to do it, but if you do it, you will feel so much better after it. Like I can say this from experience, like if you do some kind of exercise at home, like it will definitely help and make you feel better. So don't do it for necessary for being like stronger or being more fit if that's not a goal for you, but just if you want to get a better mental, if you are going to be better in all around. So I recommend that. But it's hard because everything is closed and you can't really do it at home. So, well, it's not figured out yet for me neither. But yes, I'm trying to keep a bit stricter schedule, because otherwise you just go into YouTube and you say like, oh, well, I don't have anything today, so I could just watch one YouTube video. And then you start watching and it's like you watch 2 hours or like 3 hours, and then you don't want to do anything else after that. So the whole day can go slide out of control. And that's a difficult situation, the whole quarantine, like the whole mental health side of this, which is hard, I think. Like people are not ready for this, or no one is ready for this. Like we are like social creatures, so we need to connect with other people.
We live in a society.
Yeah, so this is definitely an issue, and I'm not sure if people are promoting enough about how to deal with this, because that's not really the most important thing right now. But we should also focus on this more, I think.
Yeah, I think you have to come up with some kind of schedule to keep yourself busy. I mean, most of us probably, we are used to this more or less in this field, but the majority of the population isn't. So even, talk to this with your friends, your parents, whatever, because they might not be, they maybe they can't handle that as easily. And like the first week probably gonna be fine, but if this will go on for probably months, maybe, depending on the country, the situation, and how they're gonna lower the restrictions and all that, we don't know. But it's safe to assume that this is going on for at least a couple of weeks. So
one closing thing I wanted to mention also is just be hyper aware of people who have underlying conditions or special conditions, people with serious allergies, like other people that will need hospitalization if something were to pop up, or something that might pop up occasionally, asthma, diabetes, all those things. Those people are especially vulnerable, not just from getting sick from the disease, but also not having access to critical healthcare in hospitals, because those will be overwhelmed in a couple of weeks. So, I mean, if you know someone that needs an EpiPen because they have allergies, make sure that you have one of those handy. Or if you have an extra one, maybe communicate that to someone who needs it. This is a time where if you happen to have extra medication or supplies for someone who might need that sort of thing, insulin, like EpiPens, that sort of thing, just make sure that like it's going to the people who need them. And don't hoard those sorts of supplies like when there's going to be a crunch on like medical facilities and that sort of thing. It's just like, the risk here isn't just from getting sick, it's also from vulnerable people needing those hospital facilities. And if you know anyone like that, just take extra care to make sure that they stay isolated and make sure that they have the supplies they need if an emergency comes up. It's a terrible time to come, into an emergency room needing urgent care and then see a line of people that are on the verge of death. Like that, it's not gonna really work out well for you if you don't plan for those sorts of things now, because that is very preventable.
All right. Yeah, this was okay. I'm hesitant to say this was fun, but
I don't know how I'm going to sleep now.
All of you guys again.
But I still think this was a cool way of doing the podcast. We should do that again, I think.
I agree.
We'll see.
Doing it live was fun too. It would be nice to. I haven't been looking at the stream or anything, but it would be nice to also like take questions or maybe answer things next time too. So now that we've kind of gotten those sort of things out there.
While we are talking, Foal is shit talking me that I didn't ping people on the Discord. My PC is lagging so much.
Don't read the comments that were before, because I read them and they were like.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't.
Yeah, if it's just nerds, then I don't care.
I haven't paid attention to the chat or anything really, because I'm recording, I'm streaming, I'm talking and hoping nothing crashes, and that's already kind of difficult. So but yeah, we can improve, I guess. So
yeah, we could make more live streams and like this kind of interactive live streams like Adafruit does, and yeah, it would be interesting.
We have time now, so
yeah, we have a lot of time.
Yeah.
We also all have really interesting projects. So if we swap this for something where we're each like showing off a project we're working on or something, that could be fun too. Just like a check-in where like, I mean, Seytonic, you're always coming out with new stuff. I know you're like doing a lot of new projects. Stefan and I have been collaborating on new features for the D author, like, and then also like Dean, you always make like anything we do look so much better. like our strong point is definitely not making things look pretty. You saw the posters I made.
Oh my god, they were great.
I mean, but you made them on purpose. Good. Like you made them look horrible on purpose. I mean,
I just saw you be like viscerally offended by it. Yeah, and then David, like you know more about like actually like making money off this sort of thing than any of us do. So like, yeah, it would be good to maybe turn this format into something more as live streaming is becoming a thing that people are looking out for, since they'll be stuck.
I wonder how bug bounties, like if that whole industry is gonna continue with this actually.
Definitely, but I'm hungry, so let's talk about that next time.
Yeah, we are way over time. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed this. Like honestly, it was good. It was good. It was good to do.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Awesome.
Cheers. Yeah. See you next time.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.